This video explains why the world should not be fooled by the sad looks of German leaders, especially German President Frank Walter Steinmeier. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, where I provide unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender Germany continued world war clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. I saw TV coverage of German President Frank Walter Steinmeier's meeting with the Israeli President Rivlin on July 1, 2021, in which Steinmeier put up a long, sad face as if the Germans are victims of misunderstanding by the world and that they really work with the world to solve problems. He was telling President Rivlin at the end of the meeting that Germany thinks there is no alternative to the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian problem. Don't ever be fooled by the looks, particularly Steinmeier, Angela Merkel's, and Ursula von der Leyen's looks. They are followers of Satan the devil and no longer hide that fact. Steinmeier is the only German leader to whom Satan communicates his global strategies directly. In that sense, he and the Germans are children of the devil. Satan the devil has been very accurately described in the Bible. John 8, verse 44, the New Living Translation, says about him, "For you are the children of your father the devil, and you love to do the evil things he does. He was a murderer from the beginning. He has always hated the truth, and because there is no truth in him. When he lies, it is consistent with his character, for he is a liar and the father of lies." Here, four key traits of Satan the devil are identified. Number one, he loves to do evil. Number two, he is and has been a murderer since man's creation. Number three, he hates the truth because there is no truth in him. And number four, he is a liar and he is the father of lies. These are also the characteristics who follow Satan the devil. Germany being his model nation, the Germans exemplify all the traits of Satan the devil. Further key trait of Satan the devil is identified in Revelation 12 verse 9. "And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world." So Satan is a great deceiver, deceiving not a few but the whole world. That too is a German trait. They deceive almost everyone they deal with. Another key trait of Satan and those who follow him is identified in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 13 and 15. "For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness." Satan appears as an angel of light, meaning that he appears as someone genuinely working for the benefit of those who follow him. His followers and religious leaders appear to be genuine people interested in the welfare of others, but inside they are ravening wolves. That is made clear by Peter the Apostle in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8. "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil as a roaring lion walks about seeking whom he may devour." The motive of Satan and his followers is to destroy by victimizing people who do not give them what they want and do not submit to them. Nahum the prophet describes German traits very well in Nahum 3 verses 1, 4 and 19. "Woe to the bloody city," using Nineveh, the capital of ancient Assyria, as a metaphor for Germany. "Woe to the bloody city, it is full of lies and robbery. The prey departs not." This verse identifies the Germans as bloody people, meaning they are responsible for much bloodshed in the world. They are full of lies and deception. They rob almost the whole world. They're always preying on some people or the other all the time. Then verse 4 shows how they do evil because of demon influence and guidance and witchcraft. It states, "Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-beloved, well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts." This is again talking about Nineveh. uh, as a metaphor for the Germans. The mistress of witchcrafts that sells nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. Verse 19 then declares that the whole world has been a victim of this evil. And verse states, "For upon whom has not your wickedness passed continually?" Isaiah the prophet further identifies other ways in which the Germans operate and their connections to Satan in chapter 10, verses 13 to 14 in the New International Version. For he says, "By the strength of my hand I have done this, and by my wisdom, because I have understanding. I removed the boundaries of nations, I plundered their treasuries. I plundered their treasures. Like a mighty one I subdued their kings. As one reaches into a nest, so my hand reached for the wealth of the nations. As people gather abandoned eggs, so I gathered all the countries. Not one flapped a wing." Here the Germans are prophesied to boast of their might and prudence, or more like satanic craftiness. Here God prophesied how cunningly and clandestinely they will rob nations of their wealth who will not even know it when they are being robbed. That's what they did to America, British Commonwealth nations, and other countries of Europe because of the presence of German masqueraders in all these countries. The Germans have already accomplished this and fulfilled this prophecy. Thus, God prophesied what the Germans would do around the world in the end time. They have already fulfilled many of these prophecies, but more mayhem, thefts, and bloodshed are coming on the world at their hands in the very near future. So please do not be fooled by the looks of the Germans, particularly of their leaders such as Steinmeier. They are not victims of any misunderstanding. They have already snuffed out 120 to 150 million souls and potential souls in the world just after World War II. They are going to snuff out billions more in the very near future. They are cunning, crafty deceivers, liars, murderers, and plunderers. They are not to be trusted. If anyone else had committed the same atrocities that the Germans have committed since World War II, the world would not treat them as decent human beings. They are no better than wild beasts. When they go around in public forums among nations strutting about, they should not be accorded any dignity and respect, but should be treated with the contempt they deserve until there is a change in their attitude. But don't expect any change in them till they have brought the world to the brink of annihilation. Only God's intervention will then save the world. The Bible prophesies that. Again, please don't be fooled by the looks of the German leaders. Right beneath their skin lurks the vilest evil any humans can imagine. Steinmeier perhaps was pulling the long, sad face with President Rivlin of Israel, showing that the Germans are really sorry for the Holocaust. Don't be fooled by that. Just consider what they have done since to the Jews, Americans, and the British. They've let the Palestinians loose on the Jews and have been orchestrating the murder of Jews wherever they can in the world. The Germans have to be brought to justice for all the atrocities they have committed for the past 100 years, including those in World War II and afterwards. God's standard of judgment is given in Obadiah verse 15. "For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen," meaning non Israelite nations. "As you have done, it shall be done unto you. Your reward shall return upon your own head." Now, if the world gets a chance, which may or may not happen, nations should do to the Germans what they have done to other nations. In the United States, Britain, and Israel, if they get a chance, every atrocity they have committed should be committed on them, including killing them in gas chambers, cremating them alive in electric crematoriums, medical murders, mass shootings, serial killings, and every pain and suffering they have inflicted. The tortures the Chinese have inflicted on other people should also be inflicted on them. The reason I'm saying this is that threatening nations so that they shiver in their pants, just as the Germans have taught the Chinese to do, who now do it themselves, can be a two-way street. If they can threaten people, we should also threaten them, using God's standard given through the prophet Obadiah. While God has given the standard to use against Obadiah through Obadiah, the prophecy in Obadiah specifically is about what will be done to the nations in retaliations for what they do to the Americans, the British, and the Jewish people during their coming slavery at the hands of an alliance led by the Germans. As they treat other people, they will be treated the same way, and the ones who will inflict that punishment on them will be the Americans, British, and the Jews rescued from slavery. God prophesies and guarantees that treatment to the Germans and their alliance partners. Of course, they will try every trick at their disposal to convince people that they have repented and will not commit similar acts as they did just before World War II or during World War II. I don't think anybody is fooled, as they are continuing to commit such acts even today with the same intensity as they have committed in the past, with all the cunning craftiness they can muster. Pulling a long sad face like Steinmeier is doing is just another act to tug on the mercy and forgiveness strings of Christian nations. Remember Konrad Adenauer, who was the first German chancellor from 1949 to 1963? He treated very lightly, as if the German nation was showing contrition for what happened during the Holocaust. All that was for show, just as Steinmeier is putting on a show. During Adenauer's time, even before he had become chancellor, the Germans have already put their World War II plan into action to continue the war clandestinely just 2 years after unconditional surrender. But Alexander put on a very convincing facade, and of course, we already know what atrocities they have committed around the world after World War II. So don't be fooled by the show Steinmeier and other German leaders put on. Moreover, I know that Steinmeier, the Germans, and German masqueraders have put a perhaps $1 billion bounty on my head, and just as Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran has put a $3 million bounty on my colleague's head. No big deal. Khamenei of Iran has put a 3 million bounty on my head. No big deal. I put a 6 million bounty on the Ayatollah's head and put a 25 million bounty on Steinmeier's head. Anyone who kills Ayatollah can claim the 6 million, and anyone who kills Frank Walter Steinmeier can claim $25 million from me. I hope some of the Muslims the Germans have invited into their country will take me up on the offer. Those bounties will remain in effect as long as the bounties on my head remain in effect. Just as they despise other human beings and despise me and cannot honor and respect others, I hold the Germans in similar contempt because of their wild deeds and the atrocities they have committed. They may be lofty in their own eyes, but in the true God's estimation they are vile. So says Nahum 1 verse 14. I will make your grave, for you are vile, says God of the Germans. And Nahum 3 verse 6 in the New Living Translation, I will cover you with filth and show the world how vile you really are. This is talking about the Germans. God also calls the Germans wild asses in Hosea 8 verse 9, for they are gone up to Assyria, a wild ass alone by himself. Those who don't repent and change their ways are also called dogs in Revelation 22 verse 15. For without, meaning out of God's kingdom, are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whoever loves and makes a lie. Each of the traits mentioned here is a key German characteristic. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos and read my articles on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please allow Follow me on my YouTube and Facebook channels, Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, to get information on the latest postings of articles and videos.